Rain slams against the tall windows of Mason Books, turning the glass into a trembling gray wall. Shelves stand like quiet soldiers, their rows of used paperbacks and dog-eared hardcovers soaked in the smell of dust and coffee. Leah Mason stands on a wooden ladder, sliding a mystery novel back into place. Her cotton dress brushes her knees when she moves. Warm light from the old brass lamps paints a soft halo around her hair. From the back room, the steady hiss of the espresso machine rises and falls. For a moment, the whole world feels slow and ordinary. Then a gunshot cracks through the night outside. The sound slices the rain in half. A car screeches. Someone screams. Leah freezes with one hand on the book spine. Another shot answers, louder and closer. The ladder rattles as she quickly climbs down. Her heart slams against her ribs, but her face stays almost calm, the way she has trained it to be. She walks toward the front of the store, each step measured, as already scanning the street through the rain-streaked glass. The sidewalk is empty, washed in yellow street lamp light. A black SUV is parked half on the curb, engine still running. Its headlights stab through the downpour. Beside it, a man stumbles out of the alley, clutching his side. His shirt is soaked in blood. He looks up and sees the open door of Mason Books. He runs. Leah has exactly 3 seconds to choose. Run to the back door and disappear into the dark, like she did the last time bullets came too close. Or step forward and catch the man who is about to fall. She moves before the thought is finished. The bell over the door explodes into frantic ringing as the man slams into it and crashes inside. He hits the floor at her feet, breath ripping out of him in wet gasps. Blood smears across the wooden boards in a bright, ugly streak. His hand clutches a small metal flash drive so hard his knuckles are white. Help! He chokes. Find Night Rose. Leah's pupils tighten. For a heartbeat, the room shrinks to that single name. Night Rose. The title she buried 3 years ago. She drops to one knee beside him. Who sent you? Before he can answer, heavy footsteps pound on the sidewalk. Shadows blur behind the glass. A fist slams against the door so hard the bell jumps again. Open up. A rough voice roars through the wood. We saw him go in there. Leah's gaze flicks to the security camera in the corner, then to the back hallway, then to the man bleeding on her floor. She has already counted 3 sets of footsteps outside, maybe 4. Too many for a simple street fight. Too organized. Black Ravens, she thinks. Victor Thorne's crew. She speaks in a soft, careful voice. Give me the drive. The man's fingers loosen. The flash drive slips into her palm, warm and sticky with blood. She tucks it into the pocket of her dress just as the front door bursts open. Rain and cold air crash into the cozy warmth of the store. 4 men in black suits storm inside. Their coats are dark with water, their hands heavy, and the one in front has a scar that cuts across his jaw like a white hook. Leah knows him, Marcus Kane, second in command to Victor Thorne, boss of the Black Ravens. His gaze sweeps across the shelves, then locks on the bleeding man on the floor. There you are, Marcus says with a slow, cruel smile. You really thought you could run from us? He steps forward, boots leaving wet prints on the wood. Leah rises, standing between him and the dying man. This is a bookstore, she says. Her voice trembles just enough to match the image she has built in this neighborhood. The soft, harmless girl who makes reading lists for college kids and free hot chocolate for old ladies. You cannot just come in here and threaten people. Marcus looks her up and down, amused. Move, sweetheart. Her fingers curl against her skirt. She feels the cold shape of the flash drive pressing against her thigh. Maybe he sees it. Maybe he only notices that she is not backing away. Listen, he says slowly. That guy on the floor stole something that belongs to my boss. We are here to pick it up and clean up the mess. You do not want to be part of this. He needs a hospital. Leah answers. Not you. Marcus laughs, low and mean. His men spread out between the shelves, blocking the aisles like a human wall. Outside, sirens howl in the distance, rising and converging, red and blue lights beginning to flash against the rain. Marcus hears them too. His smile fades. You just ran out of time, sweetheart. He grabs Leah by the arm and yanks her aside. The sudden force would knock most people flat. Her body shifts with the pull, the way a trained fighter uses momentum to stay upright, but she forces herself to stagger instead, to look fragile and helpless. Marcus crouches beside the bleeding man and shakes him by the collar. Where is it? He snarls. What did you do with the drive? The man gurgles, eyes rolling. His hand opens and closes on empty air. Leah swallows, forcing her heartbeat to slow. Her vision sharpens, each detail sliding into place. 4 men inside, maybe more outside. At least one gun already visible under a wetsuit jacket. Sirens grow louder. Tires screech outside. Police. A deep voice shouts over the storm. Drop your weapons and step away from the door. Marcus curses. He jerks his head at his men. We are leaving. No. Another voice snaps from the doorway. You are not. Detective Ethan Cole stands on the threshold. Rain dripping from his short dark hair onto the collar of his jacket. His badge hangs from a chain around his neck. His right hand rests on his holstered gun, but he does not draw it yet. His eyes take in the overturned books, the blood on the floor, the men in suits, and the girl standing between them with her hands clenched. Hands where I can see them. He says. Now. For half a second no one moves. Then one of Marcus's men reaches inside his jacket. Ethan's gun is out before the man can blink. The shot shatters a ceramic mug on the front counter and slams into the wall behind the thug's hand. I said hands up. Ethan roars. The men freeze. Marcus lifts his own hands slowly, jaw tight. Relax, detective. He says. We were just leaving a friendly little book club. On your knees. Ethan orders. All of you. They start to kneel, grudging and slow. Ethan keeps his gun trained on Marcus as other officers push past him, shouting commands, cuffing wrists, forcing the men to the ground. Leah stands completely still. She feels the heat of the flash drive against her leg, and the weight of Ethan's gaze brushing past her as he scans the room again. Finally, his eyes land on her. She looks exactly the way she is supposed to look. Wide eyes. Pale face. Hands shaking as if the gunshot rattled her bones. He softens by a fraction. Ma'am. He says, his voice low now. Are you hurt? Her throat tightens around a laugh that never comes. No. She whispers. I am just scared. He steps closer, keeping himself between her and the men on the floor. I am Detective Ethan Cole with the NYPD. I promise you are safe now. Outside, rain still beats against the windows. Inside, the shelves stand tall, the coffee machine hisses, and blood slowly spreads in a dark halo under the dying man, who asked for night rose. Leah does not look down at him again. She only nods, folds her shaking hands together, and hides the part of herself that is already calculating exactly how this will change everything. Because the moment that man spoke her old name, her quiet life ended. Night Rose has been called back into the game. The interrogation room smells like stale coffee and cleaning supplies. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, turning Leah's skin almost colorless. She sits in a metal chair, fingers folded neatly in her lap. A foam cup of water sweats in front of her on the table. She has not touched it. Across from her, Ethan flips through a thin folder. The pages inside are nearly blank. They met her neighbors, her landlord, the postal worker who drops off her book shipments. Everyone told them the same story. Leah Mason runs a quiet bookstore. She is kind. She always remembers their orders. She is harmless. Thank you for coming down to the station, Miss Mason. Ethan says finally. I just have a few more questions. Of course, she says, giving him a small, nervous smile. Anything to help. He studies her. A strand of hair has fallen loose beside her cheek. Her dress is simple, pale blue cotton, now creased from hours of sitting. She looks like every shy girl he has ever seen in a library. So why does something not add up? You said in your statement that you heard the first shot at approximately 9:15 p.m. He says. Where were you in the store at that moment? On the ladder, near the back wall. She answers without hesitation. I was reshelving the mystery section. He glances at his notes. And when the suspect entered, he fell near the front desk. Yes. You ran to him right away. Yes. Her fingers knot together on the table, knuckles whitening. He was bleeding. I could not just watch. Ethan taps his pen against the folder. You did not try to hide. You did not run. You did not move to the back exit. No. She says softly. Most civilians run. Even cops sometimes duck first and think later. But this girl ran toward gunfire. Have you ever seen those men before tonight? He asks. She shakes her head. No. I keep my head down, detective. I do not know anything about gangs. Her eyes meet his. They are clear and steady. He does not believe her. His instincts, honed through years of chasing liars, whisper that she is leaving something out. At the same time, nothing about her file screams danger. There is barely a file at all. No priors, no tickets, no social media noise. Her history is a smooth, shallow pool. Too smooth. He changes angle. The man who came in. He grabbed you, right? Yes. She says quietly. He pulled at my dress. That is when I saw how much he was bleeding. Did he say anything else besides what you already told us? She hesitates for half a heartbeat. It is nothing, really. Most people would not notice. Ethan notices. He said, help. She says. I did not understand the rest. It was too fast, and then those men were there. He nods as if satisfied, though another mark appears in his mind on the invisible list labeled lies or half-truths. One last thing. He says, closing the folder. Do you feel safe going back to the bookstore? Leah lets out a shaky breath, shoulders slumping. I do not know. She admits. That part, at least, is true. The store is all I have, detective. If I do not open tomorrow, I cannot pay rent next month. Ethan leans back, thinking. I will make sure patrol cars swing by more often. He says. And if you see anything strange, you call me directly. He slides a card across the table. The number has his name printed below it in crisp black letters. Thank you. She says, her fingertips brushing the card. Really? He stands, gathering the thin folder. You can go, Miss Mason. If we have more questions, we will contact you. She nods, rises, and leaves the room on soft steps. As soon as the door shuts behind her, another detective, a broad man with a shaved head, strolls in and drops a fresh file on the table. So, he says, grinning, is our bookshop princess secretly a mafia queen, or what? Her story is clean. Ethan says, opening the new folder. Her record is cleaner, too clean. You are paranoid. The other man laughs. You have been working gang cases too long. Maybe. Ethan answers. Or maybe not. He flips a page, scanning the background check. Leah Mason, age 24. Orphaned at 19, small inheritance from parents, enough to rent the shop space. No college records under that name. No old addresses that match her current ID. It is all technically correct. It also feels like a painting hung in front of a brick wall. What is this? He murmurs. What? His partner asks. Nothing concrete. Ethan says. Yet. Outside the station, night has deepened. Leah walks down the wet steps, the detective's business card in her pocket, the flash drive heavy in the lining of her jacket, where the metal cannot set off any scanner. Rain has finally stopped. Puddles mirror the glowing streetlights. She stops under a flickering lamp, takes out her phone, and types a message. Secure line. Manual code entry. No trace. To Iris text, door is open. Someone knocked. The reply comes less than 10 seconds later. From Iris text code. Leah inhales once, tasting the city in the air. Exhaust, sugar, rain, and the faint metallic smell she can never quite wash off. She types back. Code night rose. There is no answer this time, but she does not need one. Iris will understand. By the time Leah reaches Mason Books, the yellow tape has already been peeled away. The blood on the floor is gone, scrubbed out by a cleaning crew that never asks questions. Only a faint dark stain remains where the wood drank in too much. She unlocks the door and steps inside. The store is quiet and half dark, but it is not empty. In the corner, behind the romance section, a young woman in a hoodie and jeans leans against a ladder with her arms folded. Her hair is tied up, her posture easy, only her eyes are sharp. Hey, boss. Iris says. Rough night. Leah closes the door and flips the lock. The sound is small, but it seems to snap the whole scene into a different shape. The girl in the hoodie straightens, the lazy pose disappearing like a shadow. What do we know? Leah asks, dropping her soft bookstore voice like an old coat. Iris whistles. Straight to business. All right. The guy who crashed your doorway is named Leo Navarro, accountant for the Black Ravens. The U-Drive was his insurance policy. Thorne has been hunting him for weeks. Why run to me? Leah asks. Because you are famous. Iris answers, one corner of her mouth lifting. In our world, anyway. Rose Circle has eyes everywhere, remember? Leah pulls the flash drive from her pocket and sets it on the counter. Under the bright lamp it looks innocent, just a cheap piece of plastic and metal. Not as famous as Victor Thorne would like to be, she says. He is escalating. Public shootouts in my neighborhood? That is sloppy. Or desperate. Iris says. She taps the drive. Want me to crack it? In the morning. Leah answers. We do not rush blind. She picks up the drive again and slips it into a tin box beneath the register. Then she walks to the long window, presses her palm against the glass, and looks out at the street. Leah Mason, the quiet bookshop girl, watches her reflection in the dark pane. Night Rose, the hidden queen of the Rose Circle, looks back. Her phone buzzes again. A new message, from a number that the police department thinks is still anonymous. From unknown text, this is Detective Ethan Cole. Just making sure you got home safe. She stares at the screen for a second, then types back. Text I did. Thank you, Detective. After a moment, another message appears. Text you did good tonight. Her lips curl in a small, humorless smile. If he knew how many nights she has already survived, how many bodies she has stepped over, how many guns she has taken out of shaking hands, he would not call what happened tonight good. He would call it familiar. She sets the phone down and reaches up to turn off the lights. For a heartbeat, all of Brooklyn seems to pause outside her dark window. Somewhere in that pause, in the thin space between who she pretends to be and who she really is, Leah hears a whisper she has not heard in 3 years. Night rose, the city breathes. Welcome back. The next morning, sun spills through the store windows like nothing bad has ever happened on this street. Kids in backpacks hurry past on their way to school. A woman in scrubs walks her dog, coffee cup in hand. Mason Books smells like fresh beans and lemon cleaner. Leah wears her usual cotton dress and a cardigan, hair in a loose braid. She looks softer than the light. Ethan stands across the street, leaning against an unmarked sedan, watching. He should be back at his desk, working the paperwork that piles up after an arrest. Instead, he is here, because something about last night refuses to sit quietly in his mind. He saw her stand in front of that bleeding man. He saw the way she did not flinch when Marcus grabbed her. Fear and courage can live in the same person, but what he saw in her eyes was not panic. It was calculation. Staring will not make her confess, you know. His partner, Jason, appears at his shoulder, holding a bag of donuts. If I did not know you better, I would say you are interested. I am interested, Ethan says flatly. In why her story is so clean. Jason snorts. Maybe she really is just a weirdly calm bookworm. Ethan blows out a breath. Maybe. Across the street, Leah flips the sign on the door from closed to open. A bell chimes when the first customer walks in. She smiles, takes their coat, begins a soft conversation about favorite authors. Ordinary. Gentle. Then her gaze flicks up and meets Ethan's through the glass. For a moment, the city noise drops away. She walks to the door and pushes it open. Detective Cole. She calls, voice carrying over the traffic. Are you volunteering to buy more books today? Jason laughs under his breath. Oh, you are in trouble. Ethan straightens and crosses the street. Just checking in, he says. Making sure you are all right. I am fine. Leah answers. The store is fine. The floor is a different story, but I will sand it later. She looks at him with a tilt of her head. Did you stay up all night worrying about my hardwood? Jason coughs to hide another laugh. Ethan lifts a brow. You are making jokes after a shooting. That is not normal. Normal is overrated, she says. A small shadow crosses her expression and is gone. Besides, if I close the store every time the world is ugly, I will never open again. Her answer is too polished, but something about it rings true. You remember anything else about last night? He asks, shifting gears. Any details you did not put in your statement? She hesitates, then shrugs. It all happened so fast. I remember the rain, the sound of boots on the floor, the way that man looked at me like I was his last hope. Her fingers tighten around the edge of the door. I try not to replay it. He believes that part. Even seasoned detectives get flashes after a bad scene. All right, he says. If anything comes back, call me. I will, she says. He turns to go, then pauses. By the way, he adds casually. You ever hear the name Night Rose? The words slip out like bait into still water. Her hand jerks on the door handle. It is a tiny movement, but for Leah, it feels like a truck slamming into her chest. The name he throws out like a joke is the one thing she cannot afford to react to. She forces a laugh that sounds almost natural. Night Rose? That sounds like a romance novel. Should I order it for the store? Ethan watches her face carefully. Her pupils have not changed size. Her shoulders have not risen. Only that first half-second of shock betrayed her. Maybe you should, he says. Could be a bestseller. He walks back to the car. Jason gives him a sideways look. You really think she knows something? Jason asks. I know she knows how to lie. Ethan answers, getting into the driver's seat. Her timing is too good. Her details are too neat. There is a gap between what she tells us and what happened. You going to keep poking until she snaps? Jason asks. Ethan starts the engine. No, I am going to keep watching until the mask slips on its own. Inside the store, Leah steps away from the door on legs that feel a little less steady than before. She leans on the counter, breathing slow and deep until her heartbeat calms. Iris appears from the back, holding a steaming mug. Here, she says. Extra strong. You look like you just dodged a truck. He said my name. Leah murmurs. Your fake name, or your real one? Iris asks. The one that belongs to the mask. Leah says. Night Rose. Iris whistles low. Detective boy has good intel. Detective boy needs to forget I exist. Leah mutters. She takes a sip of coffee, the bitter burn grounding her. We need to know what is on that drive. Tonight. You got it. Iris says. I will set up downstairs. She saunters back to the storage room, where a locked door hides a staircase that the landlord does not know about. Below, under the old brick building, Rose circles Brooklyn hums quietly with servers and screens. Leah stays at the front a little longer, helping a college student find a fantasy series, recommending a memoir to an older man. Her smile is easy, her voice soft. No one who sees her would guess that beneath their feet, she could press one button and see the criminal heartbeat of half the city. When the last customer leaves, she flips the sign to closed again and locks the door. The staircase creaks as she descends. The air shifts from the smell of books to cool metal and humming machines. Screens glow in the dim room, casting shifting light on maps and scrolling code. Iris sits at a desk, typing fast. Welcome to your second life, she says without looking up. Leah drops into the chair beside her. Show me. Iris plugs the flash drive into a secured port. Layers of encryption symbols blossom on the main monitor, then crumble under her keystrokes one by one. Leo Navarro was good, Iris says. But I am better. Lines of numbers and names fill the screen. Bank accounts, shipment dates, lists of weapons, and most importantly, a column labeled payments. Many of the payments go to names Leah already knows. Local politicians, mid-level gang lieutenants, small-time brokers. One name makes her lean in. Victor Thorne is paying someone inside the police, she says quietly. A badge number sits there, attached to transfers that have been going on for months. Iris whistles again. Well, that explains why the Ravens always know when raids are coming. Leah's mind spins, connecting dots she did not even know were there. Black Ravens moving deeper into Brooklyn. Raids that fail at the last minute. Cases that fall apart because witnesses disappear. There is more, Iris says, scrolling down. Looks like Thorne is planning something bigger. A large transfer, overseas. Accounts tied to an international weapons broker. When? Leah asks. 48 hours. Iris says. Maybe less. Leah leans back, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the servers fills the silence. If Thorne completes that deal, he will have enough power to lock down half the city. More guns. More blood. More kids caught in crossfire like last night. Alert our people, she says. We go on full watch. No one moves without my say. What about the cop? Iris asks. Ethan Cole. He is clean, at least in Leo's data. No money from Thorne, no debts, no blackmail. He might be useful. He is nosy, Leah says. And stubborn. So are you, Iris says. Leah smiles without humor. That is why we are both still alive. She thinks of the way Ethan put himself between her and Marcus. The way he shot just close enough to make his point without killing anyone. The way he texted to check if she got home safe. He is exactly the kind of man the city needs on its side. He is also exactly the kind of man who would hate her if he knew everything she has done. Do not pull him in yet, she says. We wait. You know waiting only makes him dig harder. Iris warns. Let him dig, Leah says. As long as he does not hit the root, I can handle the branches. Far above them, a phone buzzes on the bookstore counter. Ethan's name flashes on the screen with a new message. Text, do you like coffee? I am bringing some by tomorrow. Consider it a peace offering after a very long night. When Leah finally comes back upstairs and reads it, she almost laughs. Night Rose sits on a throne of secrets under the city. Leah Mason, who runs a small bookstore in Brooklyn, is about to learn what it feels like when a good man walks straight into the shadows she keeps. The next day, the bell over the bookstore door rings at exactly 9:30 a.m. Leah is shelving new arrivals, standing on tiptoe. She looks over her shoulder and sees Ethan step inside carrying 2 cardboard cups. Good morning, he says. I brought coffee, no strings attached. Detective, she says. That is suspiciously kind. Do not tell anyone, he says. I have a reputation. She accepts the cup. The heat seeps into her fingers. Thank you, she says. You did not have to. I wanted to, he answers simply. He glances around the store, noting the freshly sanded section of floor near the front, the missing shelf that has not yet been replaced. You did all this yourself? He asks. I had help, she says, thinking of Iris and 2 Rose Circle agents who worked all night. Book people are resourceful. They drink in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, the street noise rumbles like a distant tide. So, Ethan says finally, how did you end up owning a bookstore in Brooklyn? She recites the story she built when she first moved here. My parents loved books, she says. They died when I was 19. They left me just enough money to run from upstate and chase a dream. I found this place, and it felt right. Sorry about your parents, he says gently. Thank you, she answers. The grief in her eyes is not entirely fake. She did lose people. Their names were just different. Do you ever regret it? He asks. Walking away from whatever life you had before and starting over here. That question lands too close to the marrow. She takes a careful sip of coffee. Do you ever regret being a cop? She counters. He smiles faintly. Every time the paperwork hits my desk. But no, not really. Somebody has to stand in the way. Then that is your answer, she says. Everybody has something they are willing to stand in the way for. He watches her face. There is steel in her words that does not match the cotton dress. Before he can prod further, the door opens again, and a group of teenagers bustle in, loud and laughing. Leah shifts into shopkeeper mode, helping them find what they need, suggesting titles. Ethan steps aside, watching her. She is patient with the shy girl who hates reading. She gives a discount to the boy who does not have enough cash. She smiles, and for a moment, the world outside the window does not look like a war zone. When the teens leave, he moves back to the counter. You are good with people, he says. You must hear a lot of stories. More than I can count, she replies. Most of them are about running away from something, or towards something, sometimes both. Which one are you? He asks. She looks at him, and for the first time he sees a crack in the soft mask she wears. Both, she says quietly. Some days I cannot tell the difference. His phone buzzes. He checks the screen, frowns. I have to go, he says. Duty calls. Be careful, she says before she can stop herself. He pauses at the door. You too, Leah. When he is gone, Iris emerges from the back, eyebrows raised. Be careful? Iris mimics. Wow, that is almost romantic, boss. Leah tosses a pencil at her. Shut up and finish tracing those accounts. Iris catches the pencil easily, grinning. Hey, I am just saying, if you are going to let a cop into your heart, maybe do it after we finish taking down the psychopath with the guns. Her smile fades as she slides a folder onto the counter. Speaking of which, Thorne moved up the timetable. The weapons transfer hits tonight. Tonight? Leah repeats. Yeah. The dock numbers match the ones we flagged last month. Iris says. He is rushing it, whether the city is ready or not. Leah's mind sharpens. Call our people, she says. We will be there. What about the cops? Iris asks. Leah hesitates. If she tells Ethan, he will bring his team. They will walk into a trap they do not understand, facing an enemy who plays dirtier than any rulebook allows. If she does not tell him, and he finds out later what she knew and did not say, the thin trust between them will shatter. This is why we do not date. Iris mutters. Feelings are bad for business. Shut up, Leah says again, but there is no heat in it. She reaches for her phone. The message she drafts takes 3 tries. First version, anonymous tip about a weapons deal at Pier 12 at midnight. Second version, long explanation about Thorne, the drive, the evidence. Third version, shorter, colder, less vulnerable. She settles on a call instead. Ethan answers on the second ring. Cole. Detective. She says. It is Leah. I am sorry to bother you at work. You are not bothering me, he says. What is wrong? There is something you should know, she says. I heard some of the guys from last night talking, while they were being taken away. They mentioned Pier 12, midnight. It sounded like something was going to happen. His voice sharpens. You are sure about the time and place? Yes, she says. A lie, but a useful one. They were not being subtle. All right, he says. Thank you, Leah. I will check it out. He hangs up. On his end, Ethan immediately walks into his captain's office. I have a tip about a weapons drop at Pier 12 tonight, he says. Source is the bookshop owner from last night. She overheard something. The captain frowns. You trust her? Enough to not ignore it, Ethan says. Fine. The captain says, "You and your team take it." But no cowboy moves. "We do this by the book." Ethan nods. He leaves the office with his heart already picking up speed. He should be questioning why Leah is suddenly the perfect fountain of convenient information. Instead, he is already planning how to get his team in and out alive. Midnight wraps the pier in a heavy dark. The East River slaps against the rotting wood, carrying the smell of salt and oil. Ethan crouches behind a stack of shipping containers with Jason and 3 other officers. They wear dark uniforms, bulletproof vests, and expressions that say they have been here too many times before. Radio check. Jason murmurs. "All clear." Comes the quiet chorus. Across the pier, a convoy of black SUVs rolls to a stop. Men spill out, armed and ready. At their center, Victor Thorne steps onto the dock in a dark coat, looking calm and absolutely sure of his place in the night. "That is him," Jason whispers. "Our favorite devil." Ethan's jaw tightens. "Wait for the signal," he says. "We need them on the dock, away from the trucks, before we move." Thorne walks to the edge and glances at his watch. A cargo ship looms in the water, a metal shadow against the darker sky. Crew members begin to lower crates onto the pier with thick ropes. "Move," Thorne says, his voice carrying. "We are behind schedule." Ethan lifts his radio. "Team 2, hold your position at the south stairs. No one leaves without going through you." "Copy," a voice replies. He does not know that, in the shadows above them, another team is already in place. Leah stands on a rusted catwalk 3 stories up, black windbreaker blending into the night, hair pulled under a cap. Beside her, Iris watches through a pair of night vision binoculars. 3 Rose Circle agents wait behind them, each with a non-lethal rifle designed to drop a man without killing him. "Your boyfriend brought backup," Iris murmurs. "He is not my boyfriend," Leah says automatically. "Yet," Iris replies. Below, Thorne oversees the operation. He looks impatient, dangerous, like a man whose world has never told him no. Leah knows his type. Men who believe fear is the only currency that matters. Men who learned early that rules could be turned into weapons. "Positions," she whispers into her earpiece. "Target is in place. Remember, we are here to stop the deal, not steal the guns." One of her agents snorts softly. "You never let us have any fun, boss. Fun gets people killed," she says. "We are not them." When the last crate hits the dock, Ethan gives the signal. "Now," he says into the radio. "Move in." He bursts from cover, gun raised. "NYPD," he shouts. "Drop your weapons and get on the ground." His team flows behind him like a dark tide. From the south stairs, Team 2 rushes up, cutting off the exit. Thorne laughs, low and cold. "Boys," he says. "Welcome our guests." Guns swing up, muzzles flash. The pier erupts into chaos. Ethan dives behind a crate as bullets chew into the wood. Jason swears into the radio. Officers shout, "Return fire, fall, rise again." On the catwalk, Leah watches the firefight. Her jaw tightens. She sees the flash of Ethan's jacket, the way he pulls a wounded officer behind cover, while firing with his other hand. He is good, careful, too careful to survive this if the tide does not shift. "Take their guns out," Leah orders. "Aim for shoulders, legs, move." Her agents fire in quick, precise bursts. Men on the dock drop one by one, howling as non-lethal rounds slam into arms and thighs. Their weapons tumble into the water, or clatter across the boards. "What the hell?" Jason gasps as one of Thorne's men spins and falls like he has been hit by a ghost. Ethan sees the pattern quicker than anyone. "Snipers," he says. "But they are not aiming to kill." He risks a glance up and catches a flicker of movement on the catwalk. A slim figure, framed by the night, aiming with calm control. "Leah." He breathes, stunned. She cannot hear him, but somehow she feels the weight of his stare. Thorne realizes what is happening at almost the same time. He roars, pulling a small remote from his coat. "You think I did not plan for rats in my walls?" he shouts. "I own this pier." He slams his thumb down on the button. Nothing happens. Iris grins crookedly. "Should have changed your encryptions, old man," she says under her breath. Hours ago, Rose Circle agents slipped into the electrical room under the pier and disconnected every homemade explosive Thorne's men tried to hide. The wires are cut. The detonators are dead. Confusion flares across Thorne's face. Before he can react, Ethan and Jason rush him from the side. Ethan tackles him hard, sending the remote skidding across the dock. Jason kicks it into the water. "Victor Thorne," Ethan says, panting. You are under arrest. Thorne spits blood to the side and laughs, even as officers shove him to his knees. You really think this is over, detective? He sneers. You are playing a game you cannot even see. Ethan cuffs him, reading him his rights. Maybe, he says. But you are done playing here. As the rest of Thorne's men are disarmed and dragged into police vans, Leah's team begins to melt back into the shadows. Their job is done. No need to linger where cameras can catch them. Go, she tells her agents. I will be right behind you. Iris gives her a long look. You are going to talk to him, are you not? I owe him that much. Leah says. You owe him nothing. Iris replies. He chose to walk into the dark. That is on him. Leah shakes her head. He walked in with a badge and a belief that the law would be enough. He will not sleep tonight if he does not understand how he survived. And you care about his sleep because? Iris prompts. Leah glares at her. Fine. Iris sighs. 5 minutes. Then we vanish. Leah picks her way down a maintenance ladder, landing in a shadowed strip of dock behind a stack of crates. By the time Ethan finishes handing Thorne off to another officer, she steps out. You should not be here, he says immediately, eyes scanning for threats. And yet, she says. The wind off the water whips at her jacket. Her pupils are wide, alert, not the wide-eyed fear he saw in the bookstore. It was you, he says, voice low. You and whoever is with you. You took out their guns. You cut the power to whatever bombs he had. Would you rather I had stayed home and read? She asks lightly. I would rather you were somewhere safe. He snaps. Not in the middle of a gunfight. She lifts her chin. Safe is a story people tell themselves so they can sleep. Thorne was never going to stop. I just made sure he tripped before he could grow bigger. Who are you, Leah? He demands. Really? She considers lying again. She considers smiling and drifting back into the shadows of her carefully constructed life. Instead, she steps closer, so close he can see the faint scar along her jaw, barely visible under the dim lights. I am the person who has been cleaning up messes like Thorne for 10 years. She says quietly. The one who steps where your laws cannot reach. The one monsters whisper about when they think they are safe. He stares at her. Night Rose. He says at last. Her lips twitch. You make it sound dramatic. It is dramatic. He shoots back. You are running a covert network out of a bookstore. He should be shouting, calling for backup, reaching for his cuffs. Instead, he cannot make himself raise his voice. Do you know what it feels like to lose a case because someone tipped off the suspect? He asks. To watch them walk away because the evidence vanished, or a witness disappeared. I thought we were always 2 steps behind. Now I find out someone else has been moving pieces on the same board in the dark. We are not your enemy, she says. We are the reason some of your witnesses are still alive. If that is true, why hide? He asks. Because people like Thorne do not play fair, she says. They do not file motions or respect jurisdictions. They shoot grandmothers for telling the truth. They burn shops to the ground for planting cameras. Her eyes are fierce now, all softness stripped away. The law is a sword, she says. Rose Circle is a shield. Together, maybe we can stop people like him, before they tear the city apart. He inhales, feeling like she just punched a hole in his chest with words. Work with me, she says. Quietly. You trust your team. I trust mine. We share enough to keep each other alive. You are asking me to break rules, he says. I am asking you to bend them, she corrects. The way the city already does when it suits men like Thorne. He thinks of the bribed badge number in Leo's records, though he does not know it yet. He thinks of the times raids failed for no apparent reason. What happens if your shield turns into a sword? He asks softly. Who stops you then? She does not flinch. You do, she says. If that day ever comes, you put a bullet in me yourself. The words hang between them. He should be horrified at how easily she says it. Instead, he is horrified by how much he believes she means it. 5 minutes. Iris calls softly from the shadows. Boss. Ethan glances past Leah, seeing the outline of another figure ready to vanish. He looks back at Leah. This is insane, he says. Yes. She agrees. I should arrest you, he says. Probably. She answers. He exhales, long and hard. We do this my way, he says at last. No innocent collateral, no crossing lines I cannot come back from. Agreed, she says. And if you lie to me again, he says. I walk away. She nods once. Then I better not lie. He steps back, letting her retreat into the shadows. As she disappears, he realizes that somewhere between a quiet bookstore and a gunfight on the water, his world shifted. The line between right and wrong is still there. It is just not where he thought it was. Months pass. Brooklyn learns how to breathe without the constant threat of the black ravens. Small stores stay open later. Parents do not flinch as hard when their kids run ahead on the sidewalk. On paper, Victor Thorne sits in a federal facility, waiting for a trial that will most likely never happen, because he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Off paper, Rose Circle quietly dismantles every leftover branch of his operation. Every week, Leah sends Ethan information he could never get on his own. Hidden warehouses, dirty accounts, a list of badge numbers paid by Thorne's network that she pulled from Leo's drive. He uses every scrap within the law, building cases, cleaning his own house, turning on the ones who sold their uniforms for cash. In return, Ethan gives her access to official files she cannot hack from the outside without drawing too much attention. Names of victims who fell through cracks, cases closed for lack of evidence. Together, they stitch a net under the city that is stronger than either could build alone. Their personal lives tangle just as slowly. They fall into routines neither of them planned. Every Thursday, Ethan stops by the bookstore after his shift. He brings coffee or pastries from a bakery 3 blocks away. Leah pretends she did not time her break to match his arrival. They talk about books and bad movies, and the weirdest things that happened on the subway that week. Sometimes, when the shop is empty, she tells him stories that are true with names removed. Once upon a time, she begins one evening. A very stupid man tried to launder money through a chain of frozen yogurt shops. How stupid are we talking? Ethan asks, leaning against the fiction shelf. He named every shop after his actual nickname. She says, it took us 20 hours to find his entire network. Ethan laughs, the sound warm and surprised. Criminals should be required to take a basic class in not being obvious. He says. They do. She says. It is called YouTube. They ignore it. He snorts, then sobers. You sound tired. He says. How much sleep are you getting? Enough. She lies. He gives her a look. Try again. She sighs. 3 hours last night. Maybe 4. We had a situation overseas. You know humans need more than that, right? He says. So do detectives. She counters. When was the last time you took a day off? He opens his mouth, then closes it. Point taken. He says. One evening, after a particularly long day of arrests, Ethan finds her sitting on the floor between 2 shelves, surrounded by stacks of unsorted books. Her hair is down, a paperback open on her knees. She looks so ordinary that his chest aches. Rough day? He asks. She looks up, blinks, then smiles. Rough month, she says. But this chapter is good. He drops down beside her. Their shoulders brush. Neither of them moves away. For a long time they just sit there, backs against the shelf, breathing in the dusty comfort of old paper. Outside, the city roars. Do you ever wish it was different? He asks quietly. That you could just be a girl who runs a bookstore, without the everything else. Sometimes, she says. Then I remember what it was like before, when I was a girl who ran through alleys carrying messages for my father, while men with guns argued over who ran what street. I wish I could give that girl this bookstore. She would have loved it. He looks at her profile in the half-light. You deserve something soft, he says. Something that is not all sharp edges and midnight deals. She laughs, small and disbelieving. Soft does not last long in my world. It can, he says. If someone stands guard. She turns her head. Their faces are close enough that he can see a faint freckle near the corner of her mouth. You offering to stand guard, detective? She asks. Yeah, he says softly. I think I am. He kisses her then, careful and sure. For a heartbeat, every mask she wears drops away. When they pull apart, her eyes are bright. You know this is a terrible idea, she says. Probably. He answers. You know I have enemies who will use you against me, she says. They can try. He says. You know if your bosses ever find out how much we share, you could lose your badge. She says. He nods. I also know I spent most of my life alone with a gun and a stack of case files. I am allowed one terrible idea that feels like it might be the right one. She smiles, helpless and fierce all at once. You are so stubborn. Takes one to know one, he says. Some nights, they fight. They argue about methods, about lines, about how far is too far. He calls her out when she pushes an informant too hard. She snaps at him when he insists on following protocol even when time is running out. But every time, they circle back. Apologies are muttered into shoulders. Forgiveness curls around their tired bones. One winter evening, snow dusts the city in a thin white layer. Mason Books glows like a small sun on the corner, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. Inside, Leah hangs a new sign on the door. Community Book Club, it reads. Thursdays at 7. All welcome. Ethan stands beside her, one arm around her shoulders. You know, for a feared underground queen, you host very wholesome events. He says. Do not ruin my brand. She answers. Iris sticks her head out from the back room. Hey, boss, the tech from headquarters called. She says. They finished installing the new secure line to Interpol. Something about your speech next week? Leah makes a face. Do not remind me. Speech? Ethan asks. She shrugs. Just a little talk. She says. International Task Force on Transnational Crime. Somebody decided Night Rose would make a good guest speaker. You hate public speaking. He says. I hate being photographed. She corrects. Speaking I can handle. He squeezes her shoulder. You will be fine. He says. Just remember not to mention that you run your empire out of a used bookstore. She snorts. Funny. At the conference, held in a secure, windowless room in downtown Manhattan, Leah stands in front of a room full of high-ranking officials. She wears a simple black suit and a mask of blank professionalism. She speaks about information flows, about how criminals adapt faster than legal systems. She does not mention the nights spent chasing signatures across screens in her Brooklyn basement. When she is done, the room applauds. Some of the old men in suits look at her with fear, others with curiosity, a few with grudging respect. Ethan watches from the back of the room, disguised as just another body in the crowd. Pride warms his chest. She walks off the stage and meets his gaze. In that moment, she looks more like herself than she ever does on the street. Back in Brooklyn, after the conference, they walk home side by side. The city hums around them, neon and noise. You were incredible. He says. I did not trip or swear in 3 different languages. She says. So I will call it a win. He laughs. You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were a quiet girl with a coffee machine and a lot of paperbacks. When I first saw you, she says. I thought you were another cop who would get himself killed trying to be a hero. And now? He asks. Now I know you are a hero who is somehow still alive. She says. Which means I am doing my job. They stop under a street lamp. Their breath curls in the cold air. So what are we, exactly? He asks. A cop and a queenpin? A bookworm and a storm? She thinks for a long time before answering. We are 2 people who got tired of choosing between the rules and the right thing. She says at last. So we stopped choosing. He nods slowly. I can live with that. They continue walking. In the distance, sirens wail, but softer now, less frequent than before. Somewhere, a child laughs. Somewhere else, a gun is taken off a table before anyone can use it. Later that night, in the quiet of Mason Books, Leah stands in front of the big glass window. Her reflection stares back, layered over the blurry lights of the street. She sees both of her lives at once. Leah Mason, bookstore owner. Night Rose, leader of the Rose Circle. A girl who makes reading lists for strangers. A woman who can collapse a criminal network with one command. Ethan comes up behind her and wraps his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. What are you thinking? He asks. That for the first time in a long time. She says. I am not running. He kisses the side of her head. Good. He says. Because I am very bad at chasing people in my off hours. She laughs, leaning back into him. Outside, the city moves on. Somewhere, a new thread is already rising. Somewhere else, someone is making a choice that will send ripples through the streets. When it comes, Leah will be ready. So will Ethan. They are a strange team, stitched together out of secrets and stubborn hope. A double-edged rose and a detective who refuses to give up. In a world full of shadows, they choose to stand where the light and dark meet, hands clasped, backs straight. Not quite saints. Not quite sinners. Just 2 people who refuse to let the city belong to monsters. And for now, in this small corner of Brooklyn, that is enough.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.